This is a steal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Trade rumors continue to pick up surrounding the Leafs. A new report and rumor has dropped surrounding one key player that has huge implications going forward and reveals some big insight into Brad Living's master plan this offseason. We'll break down exactly who it is and discuss what it means going forward, as well as a few other updates on this episode, folks. Before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. If you're a part of that 71%, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys again for your continued support over here as we are on the road to 30,000 subscribers. Darius, a lot to go over today, and obviously the Leafs are in a very intriguing spot of the offseason. We're waiting on Mitch Marner. We're waiting on John Tavares. There's a lot of waiting, but there's also been some rumblings and rumors that have dropped lately surrounding one particular player. And this is not just across, the NHL, but surrounding the Leafs in general as well. Also, as it pertains to a team that's interested in Mitch Marner. So a ton to go over today, and let's just dive right into it here. And you can see here from James Myrtle, the Golden Knights could move William Karlsson to make room for a competitive bid on Mitch Marner or other top players, per The Athletic. Now, player we're going to be talking about today is William Karlsson, and we're going to discuss, I want to get your thoughts on this as well, Darius, and whether you think it's a good idea or not. I think if everything lines up well, this report could be very interesting. It could be a steal for the Leafs if some certain kind of things are, met here. And it's very interesting because if you're unfamiliar with him, he's a 50 to 60 point center who plays the power play and the penalty kill, and he's very, very solid in the playoffs, almost a point a game, a bit less than that. Having Tavares and Karlsson as a 2A and 2B centers after Matthews seems like a better idea than rotating Lawton and Domi as the third line center. So I think if they can work this out here in this report, ends up, being true about the Knights, the Leafs could sneak in and get a bit of a steal for a player here, especially if the Knights are motivated to move off of him to get a player like Mitch Marner or Sam Bennett or somebody who is going to be making 10 plus million.
Well, we know that the Vegas Golden Knights, by all reports, want to be very active in this year's free agency and want to target Mitch Marner. And if they're going to do that, they have to trade somebody. They have to move somebody. And I think William Karlsson's probably the odd man out, and that's why he's been named. And obviously, going back to last summer with some of the trade talks, there was a Shea Theodore for Mitch Marner trade that was in the works. That kind of fell through. Then William Karlsson was part of that trade. And I have to say, I do like William Karlsson. We're going to have a couple more videos on some other targets that the Leafs can go after via trade or, could be free agency and whatnot. But I do really like William Karlsson. Like you mentioned, right? A 50 to 60 point guy. If he's playing with William Nylander at the second center position, he could probably put up more points. I think he can play on the power play as well. He's scored 40 goals in the past. I like this player. Now, the cap hit is interesting. He does have term, which I think is good. He is, in his 30s now as well. So lots of things to consider. But, he did have a rough season last season. He only had 29 points, but he didn't play the full season. He only played in like about 50 games. So that is something to consider too. He could be a very good player in terms of point production. And a lot of people are talking about how are we going to replace Mitch Marner. And again, I'm going to say it again. It's not about replacing Mitch Marner. If you can get 60 points somewhere for half the price, that's pretty good because now you only have to find 40 more points and you can fill out the rest of the team pretty well. And I don't even think you need to find that many points because, yes, he's a great player and he scored 100 points, but I don't know if you need to find all 100 of those points to still be a very good competitive team and make the playoffs in a good position. So all of those things to consider. But I think he would be a very good option, honestly, at his cap hit, which isn't anything too egregious. And he still has a lot left in the tank, I believe, and he would be a good second line center option with Tavares maybe not returning, maybe moving to the wing, maybe moving to third line center, right? Because Karlsson does have more foot speed at this point in time and arguably ever than John Tavares. But I think it's interesting. They have to consider everything, and I do think it's a pretty good option. We'll get into more in-depth stuff in terms of, how the cap would work out and stuff like that. But if Vegas wants to get Mitch Marner or anybody in free agency, they have to move off of a piece.
Yeah, 50 to 60 point center. I like the fit with Tavares. I think they're going to bring Tavares back. And you can look at
I
some
agree.
of his advanced analytics here. It seems like Vegas would like to clear some cap space. So William Karlsson could be the man who will be traded. With Karlsson is a legit second line center with a great contract. Like he's on a steal of a contract. He would. The Vegas Knights or Vegas Golden Knights are motivated to trade William Karlsson. You could probably get him for cheaper than, especially if they have a deal lined up for a guy like Mitch Marner or someone else like that. And you look at some of his advanced analytics, 99th percentile defense there among, of course, players in his, kind of scene here. He's only 32 years old. Now, it's older than I'm sure a lot of people initially thought, but the Leafs are in a window right now, and there's 2 years left in his deal at 5.5 million or 6.5 million, whatever it is. They're at the point where around $6 million over 2 years, you're going to be in a spot where you're trying to compete, you're trying to win a Stanley Cup. By the time his contract is up, it won't really matter as much what, how old he is, because the Leafs competitive window is the next 2 to 3 years. And I think that's why it makes so much sense. That's why so many fans want the Leafs to go after a guy like William Karlsson. Need to go after William Karlsson this offseason. Vegas may want to move some money out, and they're already really deep at center. And it makes sense for Vegas too. If they want to add a winger like Mitch Marner or somebody of that nature, Sam Bennett or some players like that, and they want to move some money out, then of course William Karlsson will be the culprit, because they have so much depth down there at that position. And also, Darius, he's very good at the center position. I believe it's 5.9 million over 2 years. So in between, whatever it ends up being, very intriguing. And it would be a steal for the Leafs to buy low on somebody in order to open up some space. And then you still have some other money to go out and get some other players, Brad Marchand, perhaps, who is a winger. Then your team is looking a lot better than it did last year, at least when it comes to playoff potential.
Yeah, and if your center depth going into next season, just as a hypothetical, is Austin Matthews at 13 million or just over 13 million, then the second line you have let's say 6 million, right? 5.9 million, and then John Tavares, let's say he signs for 5 million. That's very good. That's great value moving forward into the future as well. And then you have some solid center depth. And for everyone who's saying maybe Karlsson's too soft or something like that, he is a great defensive player, and he's won a Stanley Cup. He knows what it takes to win the Stanley Cup. He did it with Vegas. So I really like this ad. And we talk about changing the DNA. You would be saving some money to then go out and get Brad Marchand. And the one thing I think a lot of people are missing in this is there's still, the door is still cracked open a little bit for a sign and trade, I think, especially with a team like Vegas who would love Mitch Marner. So maybe if you can get that rolling, there would have to be some other pieces, I think, included in the trade. That's for sure. But, maybe you can get that rolling. And even then, maybe you talk to Vegas and be like, listen, we want William Karlsson. We know that you have to move some pieces and some salary. Give us, William Karlsson at a reduced price. It's not like a regular trade where maybe it was last season, or there's moving pieces here, right? They want Mitch Marner. They have to move out some salary to be able to afford him. We'll do you a favor by taking William Karlsson, which could be doing us a favor as well. And in return, we're not paying as much for the player. So I think that there's a lot of really good avenues here for the Toronto Maple Leafs to acquire this player. He still has a lot left in the tank. Again, he's only 32. He's playing some good hockey when healthy. And obviously, he's won a Stanley Cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. So I do really like the move. He's a fast skater, good defensively, underrated physically as well. So I think it would be a good move, but it just depends on the return. If they're asking for too many futures, right, stuff like that, then you're going to have to consider that. But I don't think that would be the scenario, because, if it's a situation where it's like they really do believe they can get Mitch Marner, I feel like you can take advantage of the Golden Knights in that way by, taking that player off their hands.
Yeah. Maybe they give up one of their depth prospects, the Leafs, and a pick or something of that nature. I don't think there's no one really on the Leafs, actual team, the NHL caliber team, to give up. They don't really have many players. Something else to keep in mind, Elliot Freeman came out and did mention that Vegas and the Leafs had conversations surrounding Mitch Marner for Theodore, but he also doesn't think that Karlsson is available. So a bit of conflicting reports there. Mm-hmm. I think the kind of sentiment is he's available if Vegas has another deal lined up for a bigger, center, bigger piece, I guess. That's probably not a center because of their depth, but just keep that in mind as well. And he might be on the Leafs no trade clause. Maybe, obviously there's still a lot of moving pieces here, but again, could be very interesting. And it is going to be very intriguing to see what happens. Now, Vegas does like him, so there is a chance that they keep him. But I think if, according to this report from James Myrtle, if ultimately they want to go after a guy like Mitch Marner or Sam Bennett, then they'll probably keep, they'll probably have to get rid of a guy like William Karlsson. So a bit of conflicting reports there. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. Do you trust Freeman? Do you trust Myrtle? Either way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and let us know, do you think it is a steal for the Leafs if they grab William Karlsson?